Far beyond the familiar stars of the Milky Way, a sleek silver spacecraft drifted silently through the darkness of space. Its design was unlike anything humans had ever built. The ship belonged to the Volari, a highly advanced alien species, known for their intelligence and discipline. On board, the crew moved with precision, their elongated limbs and luminous eyes reflecting the soft glow of their control panels. They were explorers, scientists, and diplomats, traveling to uncharted systems to study planets, stars, and the unknown life that might exist beyond their own world. But today, the mission had gone terribly wrong. A nearby star, far larger and older than any the Volari had studied, had begun to collapse unexpectedly. Radiation and gravitational waves tore through the system like invisible lightning. The Volari ship's shields flickered under the intense pressure, sparking warnings across the bridge. Panels flashed red, and alarms filled the air with shrill, urgent tones. Captain Velan, the leader of the crew, stared at the main screen with a mix of fear and determination. He was tall, with skin that shimmered faintly in the dim light, and his eyes, normally calm and analytical, now darted anxiously across the readouts. "Shields at 40%, he shouted, his voice firm despite the panic in the room. "We won't hold much longer if this star continues to collapse at this rate." His first officer, Tirak, quickly analyzed the data. "The gravitational pull is accelerating, Captain. Our engines cannot overcome it without damaging the hull. If we do nothing, we'll be crushed within the hour." The crew worked frantically, their movements precise but hurried. They attempted to adjust the shields, reroute power to the engines, and calculate a safe trajectory away from the collapsing star. But each calculation only brought grim news. Their ship, for all its advanced technology, was not designed to survive. Such a catastrophe without help. Velan's mind raced. In the Volari archives, there was a protocol for extreme emergencies. A protocol for calling anyone who might respond, even species unknown to them. It was a last resort, something only used when survival was at stake. The protocol was called the Universal Distress Signal, a broadcast sent across all frequencies and translated into any language or communication system that might exist in the galaxy. "Prepare the distress signal," Velan ordered. "We have little time. Send it into every sector within our reach. Anyone must hear us." The crew nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. The ship's communications officer, Lyra, activated the system. A beam of light, invisible to the naked eye, shot out from the ship and began traveling across the stars at the speed of light. The signal contained everything: their coordinates, the details of the catastrophe, and a plea for immediate assistance. It also included a description of the Volari themselves, so that any responder could understand who they were dealing with. As the signal sped into the void, the crew continued their desperate attempts to escape. The ship trembled violently under the strain of the star's collapsing mass. Windows showed the star's surface cracking and exploding, sending waves of energy hurtling toward them. Sparks flew across the control panels, and systems began shutting down one by one. Velan gritted his teeth. He had faced dangerous situations before, but nothing like this. Every instinct screamed that help would never come in time. And yet, he held onto a sliver of hope. Somewhere in the galaxy, a being with courage, skill, and determination might respond to their call. They had no other choice but to believe. Back on Earth, far away in a secure space defense facility, the signal appeared on a monitor with a sudden flash. Officers and scientists rushed to analyze the unexpected communication. None of them had ever encountered a message quite like this. The symbols were unfamiliar, the patterns complex, and yet the translation software decoded the essential details. A ship was in grave danger, and its crew needed help. Among those gathered in the control room was Commander Alex Rains, Earth's top fighter pilot. Alex had a reputation that spanned nations. His skill in both simulation and real combat missions was unmatched. He had led countless operations, often against impossible odds, and had always returned with success. Yet this was unlike anything he had ever faced. Alex leaned over the console, reading the decoded message carefully. He saw the coordinates, the description of the Valari, and the urgent plea for help. His jaw tightened. He knew what this meant. A species entirely unknown to humanity was fighting for survival, and they had no one else to turn to. "Commander Rains," a voice called from behind him. "Are you seriously considering responding? This is uncharted territory. We don't even know what's out there." Alex turned slowly, his eyes unwavering. "Exactly," he said. "We don't know what's out there. And if someone is in trouble, we can't just do nothing. That's not who we are." His colleagues exchanged worried glances. Most people would have hesitated, debating the risks, the unknown dangers, the political consequences. But Alex had a clear principle. No one should face death alone if you have the power to help. Within the hour, preparations began. Alex was briefed on the experimental interceptor-class starfighter, a small but incredibly fast and resilient craft designed for deep space operations. It was equipped with the latest defensive systems, emergency life support modules, and AI-assisted navigation. While it was built for humans, engineers made adjustments to withstand extreme radiation and gravitational anomalies, just enough to give Alex a fighting chance in the Valari's perilous situation. As he suited up, Alex thought about what lay ahead. He had no idea what awaited him near the collapsing star. He did not know the Valari, their technology, or the dangers of interstellar politics. He only knew one thing: if someone had called for help, he was going to answer. Meanwhile, aboard the Valari ship, the crew continued their struggle. Lyra monitored the transmission of the distress signal, hoping desperately that someone somewhere would respond. Tirak adjusted the shields again, trying to eke out every ounce of protection from the failing system. Vaylon paced the bridge, his mind racing with possibilities. They were scientists, not soldiers. They had hoped exploration would bring knowledge, not death. And yet, they had no choice but to trust that someone would hear their plea. Minutes felt like hours. Every tremor from the star, every flicker of the shields, reminded them how little time they had. The ship's artificial gravity fluctuated, throwing some crew members off balance. Sparks flew from the walls, and a low hum of stressed machinery filled the air. Then, just as despair began to creep in, Lyra's console beeped with a new signal, a reply to their distress message. The crew froze, staring at the monitor. A voice, rough but steady, spoke in clear, translated tones. "This is Commander Alex Rains of Earth. I received your call. I am on my way. Hold tight." A moment of stunned silence filled the bridge. Then, slowly, Vaylon allowed himself a small smile. Hope had arrived in the form of a human. A single human, daring and brave, willing to come to their aid despite the impossible odds. Tirak exhaled, relief washing over him. "He's coming?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Yes," Vaylon said firmly. "And we will survive. At least we now have a chance." As Alex's starfighter accelerated through space, streaking toward the distant coordinates, he thought about the challenge ahead. He would have to face dangers he could not imagine, maneuver through conditions no human had ever survived, and protect beings entirely unlike himself. Yet despite the fear, there was a thrill, a feeling that humanity could rise to the occasion, that courage and ingenuity could bridge the gap between worlds. The universe was vast, dangerous, and often indifferent. But in this moment, two species, one human, one Valari, were connected by a simple truth. When someone cries out for help, the right response is to act. And Commander Alex Rains had already made his choice. Far away, the star continued to collapse, indifferent to the drama unfolding nearby. But the spark of hope had ignited. The Valari crew, once resigned to their fate, now prepared for the arrival of the one being who might save them from certain death. And somewhere in the void, Commander Alex Rains raced through space, ready to face the unknown, driven by the belief that humanity could shine even in the darkest corners of the galaxy. Commander Alex Rains flew his sleek interceptor-class starfighter through the endless darkness of space. Stars streaked past like sparks as his craft accelerated toward the distant coordinates sent by the Volari distress signal. His hands moved confidently over the controls, adjusting speed, altitude, and shields with a practiced rhythm. Years of training and experience had taught him to trust his instincts, especially in moments when calculations alone could not save a life. Ahead of him, the collapsing star glowed ominously, a roiling ball of fire and radiation. Its gravitational pull tugged at his starfighter, forcing him to fight against invisible forces that threatened to pull him into its burning heart. But Alex did not hesitate. He knew every second mattered. The Volari ship was fragile, their lives hanging by a thread, and he would not let them face this peril alone. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the Volari vessel appeared on his scanners. It was a large, graceful ship with a hull that shimmered in silver and blue. Despite its beauty, it was battered and shaking. The shields around it were down to less than half strength, and large sections of the outer hull were scorched and dented. Small pieces of debris floated around the ship, remnants of the star's violent gravitational waves. Alex's heart clenched. He had seen damaged ships before, but the Volari's plight was different. These were explorers, beings devoted to discovery, not war. Their survival depended entirely on his skill. Taking a deep breath, he adjusted his trajectory for docking assistance. His hands moved expertly, controlling the fighter's thrusters, as if they were extensions of his own body. Inside the Volari ship, the crew noticed the approaching human craft. Captain Valen leaned over the bridge console, watching as a small dot grew steadily larger on their screens. "What is that?" he asked, his voice a mix of curiosity and hope. Lyra, the communications officer, checked the signal. "It's the human, Captain. He's here, he's approaching at high speed." Tirak, the first officer, frowned. "A single ship? How can one human hope to save an entire vessel?" Valen shook his head. "We cannot doubt him yet. He is here, and that alone gives us a chance. Prepare for docking. Let's hope his skills match his courage." The human ship moved closer, and Alex adjusted his approach, making sure to stay aligned with the Volari's docking port. He noticed the tension in the alien crew as they watched him maneuver. Their eyes, glowing softly in the dim light of their bridge, reflected a mixture of skepticism and awe. They had seen many intelligent species in their travels, but humans were entirely unknown to them. They did not yet understand what humans were capable of, and that uncertainty made them cautious. Alex's voice came through the ship's comms, translated into Volari language by advanced software. "Captain Valen, this is Commander Alex Rains. I will assist with your docking. Please remain calm and follow my instructions." Valen's hands clenched slightly. The sound of a human voice, clear and firm, gave him a sense of relief. "We hear you, Commander Rains," he replied. "We are ready. Proceed carefully." As Alex guided the fighter closer, debris from the collapsing star began to swirl more violently around the Volari ship. Tiny fragments of rock and metal hurtled past at incredible speed, threatening to damage both ships. Alex's eyes narrowed. Timing, precision, and calm were all he had. One wrong move could mean disaster for everyone. He activated the fighter's shields at maximum capacity, letting the energy field absorb incoming debris. Sparks hit the hull, sending brief flashes of light across the cockpit. Alex gritted his teeth but did not falter. He moved with an almost instinctive understanding of the Volari ship's dimensions, keeping a steady course while compensating for the unpredictable movement caused by the star's collapsing gravity. Inside the Volari ship, Tirak muttered under his breath, "I cannot believe one human can do this. He's risking everything for us." Lyra nodded, her hands steady as she monitored Alex's progress. "It's not just skill," she said softly. "There is something about humans, something determined, unpredictable. He is not afraid." Alex finally aligned perfectly with the Volari docking port. "Hold steady," he instructed, activating the magnetic tethers on his fighter. The ship locked into place with a soft hum. Alex exhaled slowly, though he knew the danger was far from over. "Docking secure," he reported. "Now we need to stabilize your ship and get you out of this gravity well. Are you ready?" Valen nodded. We are ready. Thank you, Commander Rains. You are giving us hope we thought was gone. No sooner had he said this than a new threat appeared. On the edge of their sensors, a hostile scavenger fleet appeared. Armored ships with weapons designed to strip damaged vessels for parts. They had detected the Volari ship's weak shields and were moving in quickly, ready to take advantage of the chaos. Tirak's eyes widened. Hostile ships! They are coming to attack us. Alex's mind raced. He had anticipated some complications, but enemy ships were a whole new challenge. He could not abandon the Volari to these scavengers. Hold on, he said, gripping the controls tightly. I've got this. Stay close and follow my instructions. We fight together. The Volari crew exchanged nervous glances. They had never seen a human fight in space. Their own AI-driven defense systems were precise, but predictable. Humans, they had learned from historical data, were different. They could improvise. They could take risks. And Alex was about to prove it. The scavenger ships opened fire, sending beams of energy streaking toward the Volari vessel. Alex darted between the blasts using rapid maneuvers that the aliens could hardly follow. He twisted and looped, using the gravitational pull of nearby debris to slingshot himself into unexpected positions. His small fighter, though fragile, compared to the scavengers, moved like a phantom among the stars, striking and dodging with uncanny precision. From the Volari bridge, the crew watched in disbelief. He is attacking them, Lyra exclaimed. One human, and he is holding them off. Phelan could hardly believe his eyes. I have never seen tactics like this, he said quietly. Humans. They are extraordinary. Alex fired carefully, disabling key systems on the largest scavenger ships without destroying them completely. He wanted to neutralize the threat, not cause unnecessary destruction. The scavengers, confused by the humans' unpredictable attacks, began to falter. Their formations broke and they struggled to keep up with his rapid, daring maneuvers. Stay close, Alex shouted to the Volari. I'll create a path for your engines. Once you follow, we'll escape the star's pull. Velan and Tirak worked quickly, guiding the Volari ship along the path Alex had carved through the debris and enemy fire. The alien vessel shuddered as its engines strained, but it moved steadily, protected by the human pilot's skill. Minutes felt like hours, but gradually, the scavenger fleet began to retreat. Alex's maneuvers, combined with the Volari ship's slow but steady movement, had bought them enough time. The alien crew finally allowed themselves a moment of relief. Unbelievable, Tirak whispered. One human has outsmarted a whole fleet. This is beyond our understanding. Lyra nodded, eyes wide with admiration. It is not just his skill, it is his courage. He is risking everything for us, and he does not hesitate. Alex, though tense, allowed himself a small smile. The immediate danger had passed, but he knew the star was still collapsing. The Volari ship's hull was damaged, their shields were weak, and they had to get out fast. He turned back to the controls. We're not done yet, he said firmly. Follow me closely, we need to reach a safe zone. As the Volari ship accelerated, tethered guidance from Alex's fighter helping to stabilize their movement, the crew began to see a new side of humanity. They realized that humans were not just clever, they were fearless, determined, and willing to face impossible odds for the sake of others. Captain Velan watched the human pilot with a sense of awe. If this is what humans can do, then perhaps we underestimated them. Perhaps they are more than we imagined. The Volari crew, inspired by the bravery of a single human, began to work together with renewed energy. They repaired minor systems, rerouted power to damaged engines, and prepared for the next stage of their escape. The star continued to collapse behind them, but for the first time in hours, hope burned brighter than fear. Alex Rains, Earth's top fighter pilot, had not only arrived when help was needed, he had reminded an entire species that courage, skill, and determination could change the outcome even in the darkest moments of space. And though the danger was far from over, the bond between human and Volari had begun, forged in fire, danger, and the unyielding will to survive. The distant star continued to collapse, spewing waves of radiation and debris across the surrounding space. Commander Alex Rains kept his fighter close to the Volari ship, acting as both shield and guide. Every moment counted. The Volari vessel, though large and powerful in its own right, could not match the unpredictable movements and raw skill that Alex brought to the fight. Alex's mind worked faster than any computer. He analyzed the paths of incoming debris, the positions of the remaining scavenger ships, and the gravitational pull of the collapsing star. One wrong move could spell disaster for both him and the Volari crew. Yet he moved with calm precision, each action carefully calculated but executed instinctively. "Hold steady," Alex shouted over the comms. "Follow my lead and don't make sudden maneuvers. I'll clear a path for us." Inside the Volari vessel, Captain Valen barked orders. "Engage stabilizers. Maintain velocity. Trust him." The crew followed, eyes wide, as the small human fighter darted through space with daring maneuvers that seemed impossible. The scavenger fleet, regrouping after their earlier confusion, had returned. This time they were smarter, forming tighter formations and attempting to trap both the Volari ship and Alex's fighter. Their weapons glowed menacingly as they aimed at the vulnerable alien vessel. Alex's heart raced, but his expression remained calm. "They think they know my moves," he muttered to himself. "Let's prove them wrong." He pushed his fighter into a daring dive, skimming dangerously close to the star's gravitational pull. The velocity increased sharply and the debris field became even more treacherous. Yet Alex's instincts guided him, his hands moving like a blur over the controls. Energy beams from the scavenger ships barely missed him as he twisted and rolled, striking key engines of the enemy ships with precise fire. From the Volari bridge, the crew watched in awe. Lyra whispered, He's impossible. Look at him. One human is holding off an entire fleet." Tirak, usually calm and analytical, could hardly believe what he was seeing. "These humans, they do not follow the rules. They improvise, they adapt, and they do not fear failure. He is not just a pilot, he is a force of nature." Alex's fighters zipped between two massive scavenger ships, drawing their fire toward him and away from the Volari vessel. He fired back strategically, targeting engines, weapon systems, and shields. His movements were unpredictable, something no AI could anticipate. The enemy's formations broke once again, their attacks becoming scattered and ineffective. "Keep moving," Alex shouted to the Volari. "We're not out of this yet." Valen nodded. He had learned a lesson in a few short minutes that no training or simulation could teach. Humans were not limited by logic alone. Their creativity, courage, and willingness to take risks made them uniquely dangerous opponents. The Volari ship accelerated, following Alex's path through the debris and gravitational waves. Small fires erupted in sections of the hull, and the hum of stressed engines filled the vessel. The crew worked frantically to stabilize systems, reroute power, and keep the ship steady. Every second counted, and every action could mean the difference between survival and destruction. Alex noticed the stress on the Volari ship's hull. He calculated a daring move, a gravity-assisted slingshot maneuver that would use the collapsing star's pull to propel the vessel to a safer orbit. The plan was risky. One miscalculation could destroy both ships instantly, yet he knew it was their only chance. "Captain Valen," he said over comms, "I need you to trust me. I'm going to guide you using the star's gravity. It's dangerous, but it's the fastest way out." Valen took a deep breath. "Do it, human. We trust you." Alex pushed his fighter toward the star, weaving between beams of energy, debris, and gravitational waves. The star's pull tugged at him violently, testing the limits of his craft. Sweat formed on his brow, but he did not falter. Every move was precise, every adjustment critical. The Volari ship followed his lead, its massive engines straining against the gravitational forces. Sparks flew from damaged sections of the hull, and the crew braced themselves as the star's waves rocked the vessel violently. But Alex's calculations were perfect. Slowly, carefully, the Volari ship began to accelerate along the path he had carved. The scavenger fleet, unable to predict his movements, became disoriented. Their weapons missed, Their formations broke apart, and one by one, their ships began to retreat. Alex's bold gambit had worked, but the danger was far from over. The star was still collapsing, and they needed to get farther away before it was too late. Inside the Valari ship, Lyra's hands shook slightly as she monitored the instruments. "He's incredible," she murmured. "One human, and he has outsmarted them all. How can one being do so much?" Tirak's eyes were wide. "It is not just skill. It is something else. Humans, they have something in their spirit that no machine or strategy can match. They are fearless in ways we cannot fully comprehend." Alex guided the Valari ship through the last stretch of the dangerous zone. He calculated each movement, each thrust, each angle to avoid debris and radiation. The star's energy waves threatened to engulf them, but he pressed on, determined to see the mission through. Finally, after what felt like hours, the immediate danger passed. The Valari ship reached a safer orbit, far enough from the collapsing star to avoid its deadly pull. The scavenger fleet had retreated, and for the first time in hours, the Valari crew allowed themselves a moment of relief. "Commander Rains," Valen said, his voice filled with gratitude and awe, "you have saved us. Not just from the scavengers, but from certain death. How can we ever repay you?" Alex shook his head. "You don't need to repay me," he said simply. "We help each other because it's the right thing to do. That's what humans do. That's what anyone with courage does." The Valari crew exchanged glances. They had studied many species, but this human was different. He was not just skilled, he was brave, resourceful, and willing to risk everything for others. In that moment, they realized something profound. Humans were not only capable of survival. They could change the course of events in ways no other species could. Tirak spoke quietly, almost to himself. "One human has done what our fleets could not. Perhaps humans are more than we imagined." Lyra nodded, tears of relief in her eyes. "And they are willing to fight for others, even strangers. That is remarkable." Alex knew the immediate danger was over, but he could not relax completely. The star would continue to collapse and more dangers could appear at any moment. He began planning the next steps, repairing minor damage to the Valari ship, reinforcing their shields, and preparing for a safe route back to a secure system. As he worked, he noticed the Valari watching him closely. Their expressions had changed, from skepticism to admiration. They whispered among themselves, speaking in their native language, but the meaning was clear. Humans were extraordinary, not because of their technology, but because of their spirit, courage, and ingenuity. Valen approached Alex's tethered fighter and spoke with a quiet authority. "You have taught us something today. You have shown us that skill alone is not enough. It is courage, determination, and the willingness to act when others hesitate that makes a difference. Humans, you are truly remarkable." Alex smiled. Faintly. "We do what we must," he replied. "But today it was easy to help you. You didn't give up and you trusted me. That made all the difference." The Valari crew nodded. They would remember this day forever, not just as the day they were saved from a collapsing star, but as the day they learned that humans could rise to impossible challenges, facing danger with courage and ingenuity. For Alex, the mission was far from over. The universe was still full of dangers, and the Valari ship was damaged and vulnerable. But he felt a quiet satisfaction. He had proven that humans, even alone, could make a difference in the most impossible situations. And as the Valari ship slowly moved away from the star, following Alex's guidance, the bond between human and alien began to strengthen. It was a bond forged in danger, respect, and the recognition of extraordinary courage. In the darkness of space, Commander Alex Rains, Earth's top fighter pilot, had made his mark. He had not only protected the Valari from certain death, but had shown them why humanity was a species capable of facing the impossible and prevailing. The collapsing star loomed larger with each passing moment, its massive surface splitting and erupting in waves of energy. Commander Alex Rains monitored the Volari ship as it struggled against the star's gravitational pull. Though the immediate threat from the scavenger fleet had passed, a new and far greater danger had arrived. Every second the Volari ship stayed too close to the star, its hull weakened by debris and radiation, was a second closer to destruction. "Captain Valen," Alex said over the comms, "we're safe for now, but your engines are at maximum stress. I need to come closer and guide you through a gravity-assisted maneuver. It's risky, but it's the only way." Valen hesitated, staring at the glowing orb of the star in their front viewports. "You want to take your fighter into the gravitational wave itself that could destroy you?" Alex's jaw tightened, his eyes focused on the approaching danger. "I have to. If we don't act now, your ship won't survive long enough for anyone to help. I'll tether my engines to your ship and boost you free. It's extreme, but it will work if I'm precise." Lyra and Tirak exchanged worried glances. "A human risking everything for us again," Lyra whispered. "Why does he do this?" Alex activated the fighter's energy tether, a high-strength cable designed for emergency rescue situations. He maneuvered closer to the Volari ship, feeling the star's gravity pull at every ounce of his craft. The heat from the star increased, sensors registering dangerously high radiation levels. Sparks flew across his control panels as systems strained under the pressure. "Hold on tight," Alex shouted, gripping the controls with white-knuckled intensity. "I'm going to pull you out." The Volari ship shuddered as Alex's tether attached to its hull. The massive engines of the alien vessel roared as he began to push, using every ounce of his fighter's power combined with the tethered propulsion to accelerate them both. The gravitational waves twisted and bent space around them, making navigation a nightmare. Inside the Volari ship, the crew braced themselves. Their seats rattled violently, alarms blaring as the star's radiation surged around them. "Are we going to make it?" Tirak asked, fear and awe in his voice. "We have to trust him," Valen replied. "He knows what he's doing. We have no other choice." Alex's fighter groaned under the extreme strain. Heat shields flared red, systems warning of imminent overload. His hands moved over the controls with absolute precision, adjusting thrust, angle, and tether tension. He calculated every movement to fractions of a second, knowing that even a small mistake would crush them against the star's deadly surface. The star's energy waves slammed into both ships, shaking them violently. Sparks flew, lights flickered, and the hum of overworked engines filled the cockpit. But Alex did not flinch. His focus was absolute, his mind and body working in perfect harmony. He knew that every calculation, every maneuver, was a matter of life or death for the Volari. "Crew, almost there," he muttered, eyes scanning instruments. "Just a little more." The Volari ship responded to the tethered boost, its engines roaring in tandem with Alex's fighter. Slowly, painfully, they began to move away from the deadly pull of the collapsing star. The gravitational waves still threatened them, but the combined force of the human skill and the alien engines created a path through which they could escape. Valen could hardly believe what he was seeing. He is pushing his craft beyond its limits, and it's working. Incredible. After what felt like an eternity, they finally cleared the worst of the star's pull. The Volari ship floated safely in open space, engines cooling and hulls stabilizing. The crew let out a collective sigh of relief. They had survived what should have been impossible. Alex, however, slumped in his cockpit, exhausted. The fighter had sustained severe damage from the heat and stress of the maneuver. Systems were failing, and he knew he could not last much longer without repairs. But his mission was accomplished. The Volari were safe. Valen and the crew approached the tethered fighter carefully. "Commander Rains," Valen said, voice filled with deep gratitude. "You have saved not just our lives, but our species' hope. You risked everything, and for that, we are forever in your debt." Alex shook his head weakly. "I did what anyone should do," he replied, voice tired but firm. "No one should face death alone if you can help. That's what matters." The Volari crew realized something profound. This human, alone against impossible odds, had done what their entire fleet might have failed to accomplish. They began to see humanity not just as a species capable of survival, but as one capable of courage, ingenuity, and selfless action that could tip the scales of fate itself. As Alex was carefully transported back to the Valari ship for medical attention, the crew whispered among themselves, "Humans. They are unlike any species we have ever encountered," Lyra said softly. "They are small, but they carry a power that is extraordinary." Tirak nodded. "They risk everything for others, even strangers. That is a strength no technology can replicate. We must remember this." Alex, though exhausted, allowed himself a small smile. The mission had pushed him beyond the limits of endurance, but the Valari were alive. That was enough. And in that moment, he felt the quiet satisfaction of knowing humanity had shown its best face to the stars. With the immediate danger behind them, the Valari ship drifted in the quiet of deep space, its systems slowly stabilizing. Captain Velan gathered the crew on the bridge. Their expressions were a mix of awe, relief, and admiration. One human had changed the course of their lives, and perhaps their entire species' understanding of the universe. Alex, now resting after medical attention, sat quietly as Velan approached him. "Commander Rains," the Valari captain said, voice steady but filled with emotion, "you have proven something beyond our expectations. Not only is humanity skilled and courageous, but it possesses a spirit that can inspire hope even in the darkest moments." Alex smiled faintly. "I only did what I could, but I'm glad I arrived in time." The Valari crew began to discuss, among themselves. Lyra's eyes glimmered with admiration. "He didn't just save us," she said softly. "He showed us something we had never seen before. Humans. They are fearless, clever, and willing to act when others hesitate." Tirak nodded. "We will tell the story of this human. Every fleet, every ship, every world that knows of this event must know how one human faced the impossible and changed the outcome." The Valari ship systems were still damaged, but thanks to Alex's interventions, it was capable of making the journey to a safe system for repairs. Velan instructed the crew to plot a course to the nearest Valari safe zone. Alex assisted with navigation, still keeping a careful eye on any remaining hazards from the star's collapse. During the journey, the Valari began to ask Alex questions, not about technology or tactics, but about humanity. They wanted to understand why he had risked everything for strangers. His answers were simple: courage, determination, and the belief that no one should face death alone. "Humans," Velan said thoughtfully, "may be small in number compared to our fleets, but their courage and willpower can match the mightiest forces in the galaxy. One human changed the fate of an entire crew today." Alex shrugged modestly. "We all do what we must. But thank you. I'm glad I could help." The Valari crew nodded, inspired. They realized that courage and ingenuity, even in a single individual, could tip the balance of impossible situations. Alex had proven that survival was not just about technology or numbers. It was about the will to act, the intelligence to improvise, and the heart to help others without hesitation. As the ship approached the safe zone, Velan recorded in the Valari archives. "Today a single human arrived when all seemed lost. Against impossible odds, he saved our crew from the collapse of a star and the attack of hostile forces. His skill, bravery, and selflessness were extraordinary. We will carry the memory of this human, Alex Rains of Earth, throughout our species. Let his actions inspire all who hear of them." Alex, sitting quietly in the Valari medbay, listened to Velan's words and allowed himself a small, tired smile. The danger had passed and the Valari were safe. He had done what he had always believed was right. The story of this human pilot would spread throughout Valari space, whispered from fleet to fleet, inspiring awe and respect. They would tell of the human who defied impossible odds, who outmaneuvered fleets, and who risked everything to save a species he barely knew. And as Alex returned to Earth in the months that followed, he carried no medals, no fanfare, no recognition, just the quiet knowledge that humanity had proven itself once more. Even in the far reaches of the galaxy, humans could shine. Humans could act when others hesitated, and humans could change the course of fate itself. In the darkness of space, the Valari would remember the human pilot who came when no one else could, who risked everything, and who proved that courage, determination, and heart were the greatest powers in the universe. Commander Alex Rains had not just saved lives, he had created a legend.